Hello and welcome back class 9 class of 2021. This is your English course class with me, Sir Mara. As I've already mentioned in our previous classes, we are going to take a quick detour from our main English course books because we have lots to do regarding grammar. And due to this pandemic and our ongoing lockdown, it's really unfortunate that regular classes cannot be taken because there are tons and tons of lessons to cover, especially in grammar. You have missed out on a lot. But let's keep our hopes up and try our very best. To begin today's grammar class, I want everyone to copy this down. The formulas of the present and the past tense. And as soon as the video ends, I want you to memorize them by heart, because if you are not thorough with the formulas, I promise you'll have trouble grasping and understanding what we are about to learn. Now, most of you have the tendency to get confused when this is mentioned. Present indefinite tense is just the same as the simple present tense. Just like that, present continuous and present progressive are the same. The formulas you'll have to, like I said, you'll have to memorize them by heart. Now let's go on to the lesson. Active and passive voice. Now before learning how to change active to passive voice, there are some rules you will have to follow. Your rules are this. Rules to memorize and follow whenever changing active to passive voice. Number 1 is memorize the formulas. Like I just said, you have to memorize the formulas of all the tenses, present, past and future tense. That's the first step. Number 2, know the tense of the given sentences. When questions are given, you have to be able to identify what tense it is in. To know that, you have to know the formulas first. Number 3, after identifying the tense, you have to find out the subject, verb and the object. Let's go to number 4. Find out whether the object is in the singular or the plural form. That will help you choose which auxiliary verbs to use. Auxiliary verbs such as is, am, are, was, were, has, have, had. Number 5. In the passive voice, the main verb is always changed to its third form of the verb or the past participle form. Let's go on to the next slide. Active voice. First of all, how do we form an active voice? In active voice, the subject or doer of the action is the main focus. Therefore, the sentence starts with the subject. Active voice basically are our usual sentence structure, which has a subject, verb and object, having the subject as the main focus. Subject is the doer of the action. It can be either a noun or a pronoun. A verb is words that denote actions. Very easy, you've already learned this in the previous classes, class 7 and class 8 with Miss Zoe and Sir Samuel. And I don't think we need to go into further details with that. Okay, because if you have already finished learning that, and if we dwell on that for too long, this class is going to take forever. Next one. Object. Object 2 is a noun or a pronoun, and objects are nouns or pronouns in which actions are done upon. In this class, we are going to learn how to change active to passive voice in the simple present tense. Okay, let me remind you, simple present tense only. You have the structural formulas of the simple present tense there. It starts with the subject, then comes the first form of the verb. S or es is relevant only when the subject is in the singular form. I repeat, singular form. For example, she sings. You add the s there. Without the s, it will have no meaning. The example we are going to use today is Amanda sings a beautiful song. Now look at this. On this slide right here, as you can see, is the sentence structure of the active voice, and on the corner there are very important points to follow when changing it to the passive voice. Now listen very carefully. When changing active to passive voice, the main focus is given to the object rather than the subject. So in the passive voice, the object will come in front. The subject, which used to be in front in the active voice, will go at the back when changing it into the passive. And the second point, in passive voice, the verb will always be in the past participle form or the third form. This verb will always be in its third form when changing it into the passive voice. Got it? Now, in simple present tense, our example was Amanda sings a beautiful song. Amanda is the subject, sings, verb first form plus s or es, and the object. Now when changing this into the passive voice, what will happen? So the object will go in front. A beautiful song is sung by Amanda. Amanda, the subject, will go at the back, and sings here, first form of the verb, will always change into its third form, sung. Is that clear? So the structural formula of the active and the passive voice are given below here. Copy these down right away. Now let's go on to the next slide. Here we have some exercises we will do. Listen very carefully. Mr. Jones speaks the truth. When changing this active into the passive, the object will come in front and will be changed to this. The truth is spoken by Mr. Jones. Now let's talk about the auxiliary verb is. Options given are is, am, and are. Why do we choose is here? Because the object is in the singular form. The truth is in the singular form, so we choose is. Let's go to the next one. The mason builds houses. Houses are built by the mason. Now here we use are. Why? Because the object houses is in the plural form. Got it? Now let's go to number 3. Does he read books? Now many of you tend to get confused when interrogative sentences are mentioned. We will explain that here. Interrogative sentences in the simple present tense always starts with these two words. These two words are helping verbs or auxiliary verbs, do or does. Here is the structural formula of the simple present tense in its interrogative sentence. It will start with do, does plus the subject plus the first form plus the object. This, when changing it into the passive, will become this one. Is, am, are auxiliary verbs will be in front because it's an interrogative sentence. Then comes the object, then the third form of the verb, followed by the subject. Let's do some exercises with this. Does Sita play the guitar? Is your first question. What will happen? Change this into this formula. What will happen? Guitar will come at the front, the object will come at the front, and we'll start with auxiliary verb is because the object is in the singular form. The verb play will change into its third form, played, by the subject at the last. Another question. Now, when a question starts with WH words like why, who, how, when, etc., your answer will also start with those question words we just mentioned. Why do they drink a glass of milk every morning will change into why is a glass of milk drunk by them every morning. So do not get confused when questions start with those WH words. Okay, now I think you will know the answer to this one. Does he read books? Your answer will be, are books read by him? Easy. Now I think we can go on to our next slide. On our next slide, I have some questions for you to attempt. Question number 1. Why do girls wash their socks every day? It begins with WH words or question words again. You also, when changing it to the passive voice, it will also start with this. Remember, do they own a PS5? The man takes beautiful photos. It's in the plural form. The object is in the plural form. Does she do the homework? This has to be a question mark. I forgot to put a question mark here. My mistake. A question mark has to be here, not full stop. Number 5. Every day he writes poems. If you were paying attention to the lectures, I don't think you'll have any problems with these questions. These are very simple ones. But if you do, rewatch the video again. I think with that, we are done for today. Next class, we will be explaining the passive form in the continuous tense. Everyone stay safe and study hard. Bye bye.